Jessie.
Hi, Lindsay.
It's so good to see you here. If we have a little bit more giggles and a little more fun energy than usual for the Shift series, it's because this is my dear friend Jessie, who is also a part of my consulting mastermind, The Mystics. So we have so much to talk about, so much that I'm excited to share and illuminate in this Shift series. And I'm mostly so excited that you agreed to come be here today. Thank you.
I'm so excited to be here. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. Will you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the work that you do in the world?
Sure. My name is Jessie Keene, and I'm a master nutrition therapist and eating psychology coach. I work with women to help get them more plugged into their bodies and their body wisdom, and find a little bit more ease in their relationship with nourishment and self-care, so that they can step into all of their beautiful gifts and power in the world and give fully.
I love that, and it's so important. I have been so drawn to your work since the first time we connected, and I got to read a little bit of your writing and your story. You have a powerful story, personal journey in terms of coming into your own relationship with food, in terms of understanding how food impacts mood and relationships, and like you said, our self-expression and the light we shine. Would you be open to sharing a little bit of your personal journey towards understanding this relationship with food in a new way?
Sure. It feels so layered, and like the journey has really been I don't know, 16 years at this point. So at times it's hard to nail down exactly what would be the story that was the entry point. But I would say during high school and grade school, I'd always been very much an athlete. And then around my junior year of high school, I got a herniated disc in my back and a stress fracture in my shin. And so I had to quit soccer and quit cross country. And then a number of experiences happened with men that I really stopped. I didn't know how to view my body anymore or how to be in relationship to it anymore, because in the past I'd always been so connected with its strength and with myself and as an athlete, and suddenly it felt more like this ornamental thing. And so that really made me feel uncomfortable, and I started overeating a little bit. And then my senior year was fairly intense. I lost a good friend, and then my dad was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor. And soon, it wasn't just the healthy foods we had in our house. It was the cinnamon rolls that people were bringing over, and the brownies, and the casseroles. And I just used food to numb and sedate all of the feelings that I wasn't capable of handling at that time. And it grew fairly intense. I went off to college before I had a chance to say goodbye to my dad, and I was in California. My family lived in Wisconsin, and I gained about 30 pounds very quickly just using food to sedate myself. Yeah. And then I learned that I could quickly lose it all by fasting and doing juice cleanses for about a month before I returned home. So that began this very this pendulum of the extremes. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So we can all, I think, as women relate to that thing, even if it's just through puberty. I mean, I hear young girls talking about this, of the thing of, I related to my body from a place of its function and its strength and what I could do, and that was who I was. And then I entered into puberty, and now it's this different thing, and I'm getting seen in a different way, and I don't know how to reconcile that. And it seems like that is a not uncommon place where this relationship to food starts to get tricky for us. Mm-hmm. What are some of the ways that you help clients? I'm assuming it's a common, first of all, is that a common theme you see with your clients, is that it goes all the way back to these childhood roots and how we saw ourselves and how we entered into womanhood, where the relationship begins?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing to explore. I'm not sure that I've seen that necessarily as a theme, mm-hmm. but but and everybody has their own story around it, which I think is so interesting to dive into.
Yeah.
But
So it's very individual. So when you came into a point then where you had this past history with your own shift and kind of an awareness of the cycles that we can get trapped in, how did you find your way out of that and into the side of being a resource for women, but also being a healer on many levels and shining a light on this journey that's all too common for a lot of us?
yeah, it was not easy. So it was as though my body was speaking to me and had to keep getting louder and louder and louder with health symptoms and everything else until I could finally hear it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say that the experience was so layered and it has so many twists and turns because so I was struggling with this deprivation, kind of like excess pendulum. And what ended up happening was I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome. So my hormones just became so out of balance. In the wake of my dad's death, I had severe depression and anxiety. I was on antidepressants, anti-anxiety drugs, drugs for my hormones to try to keep the levels normalized, the levels of testosterone normalized. And I had panic attacks. I'd never struggled with anxiety, and suddenly I'd be like drenched with sweat in like a matter of like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So they kept getting louder and louder and louder, and I would try all these masculine approaches, right? So I'd like count calories, and I'd make lists of foods I could eat and foods I couldn't eat, and I would weigh myself every day, and all of these like rigid masculine numbers approaches.
Yeah.
And then I basically just ran from life, and I went and I lived down in South America for a year, and I just traveled around and learned from indigenous healers down there. And I also did quite a bit of volunteering. And one woman was very helpful for me. She was this healer in Argentina, and she had said to me that I was using masculine approaches to try to heal my hormones, and that it was never going to work. Like by like layering more masculine energy on top of a problem where I already had excess male hormones, masculine hormones running through my body.
Right.
It was doing the opposite of what my body actually needed. Yeah, so that was so hard for me to hear, but.
Could you receive it in the moment, or did it take reflection later for you to actually hear that message?
Well, luckily I was there for about a month with her, and it was like I swear I became her project, because every day she'd be like, "Come float with me in the water," and I was like, "I've got to climb up the mountain, like float with you." And so it took a long time, and I would sit with her in meditation, and I was on all those antidepressants, and I just couldn't relax. I couldn't feel my body. I was numb. And so I slowly weaned off antidepressants with her, and it was an experience of slowly getting back into my body, but that was just the beginning. And since then, I mean, I swear I learn a little bit more every day, every year. I'm still learning, and probably will be until the day I die, about how to get back into my body, less out of my head, and invite in a healthy relationship between the feminine and the masculine.
Absolutely. And I think that's part of why, in addition to your light and your expertise, that I was so drawn to you and your work, is you see it through this lens of a calibration between these, you know, the recognition of the ebb and the flow of our own process, but also the balance of the masculine and the feminine, the balance of not only the food part, but the emotional part, the spiritual part, the movement part, the importance of the moving the body. And when you have this personal knowledge behind that, of spirituality and also science, and so it's such a beautiful combination. And I know I can feel, and others can feel, the space you hold for people to find their way in that context. So tell us a little bit about how that translated into the work you do in the world, and how you help women who find themselves in these, like, first of all, what are they experiencing? I'm not sure if everyone's familiar with is PCOS, is that right? You could tell us a little bit about that. And then I know that, these types of challenges manifest themselves in kind of groupings of symptoms or experiences to your body. Tell us what that looks like for women.
Yeah, so most of my clients, they have like that triad where it's thyroid, adrenal, and ovarian or female endocrine issues. Yeah. And so I kind of always see them clumped together or related in some way with my clients that come to me with hormonal imbalance or symptoms of hormonal imbalance, which are usually like struggles with weight gain, depression, anxiety, bloating, it can be a number of things. And then digestion gets in there because a lot of times hormonal imbalance is created because our digestion and assimilative capacities are hindered in some way or another.
So that would be like the leaky gut people hear so much about and talk about.
Right. Okay. Leaky gut. Yeah. And so they come to me with all of those things, but also they come to me because these symptoms have been present for a long time. And popular culture is like, well, then use willpower, diet. Like if you're overweight, diet. If you're overweight, exercise more. And so they've tried to like impose all of these shoulds upon themselves for so long. And they're overwhelmed. They're like inundated with various external ideas about what they should be doing. And they're totally just disconnected from their own bodies and their own body wisdom. Yeah. So that's really the core of what I do, is getting women reconnected to their own body wisdom, because, I feel like each of our journeys is so different. Like for me, movement is a big piece, and I can't just do yoga. I actually need a vigorous exercise component to like run those stress hormones through my body. Yeah. Because I do have a lot of energy running through my body. And if I don't have some sort of vigorous energy, then I get, mental, like
that
too
chatter, that hamster wheel that we can all relate to. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's so different with everyone. So I really think reconnecting with body wisdom and giving people the tips and tools in order to access that,
totally
in a deeper way is really like the crux of the work.
And that's so much the driver behind my foray into entrepreneurship, was creating trackers and creating systems and tools for people to see themselves individually for exactly that reason, because there isn't one prescription, and because all these things you described, because we have our own journeys and entry points, because it is multi-layered, because it affects these multiple systems, which means it's complex. And also, you mentioned the shoulds just around the food piece, but they're the shoulds that go with the anxiety piece. Like, I should be able to just calm myself down if I meditate. I should be able to just not be moody if I take a bath around my moon time. I should be able to, these shoulds add this whole layer of more to this shaming, more to the disconnection from ourselves, more to the disconnection from a truth of our own body and body wisdom. How do you help people with that shoulds piece? I think that's something that we all probably can relate to. So how can we break that cycle of the shoulds?
So I see it a couple different ways. I was telling you the story about how I've been seeing cockroaches since I moved to the South, and I was terrified of them, and I looked up their medicine, and suddenly, like, it made it less scary. It was like, oh, you're here to teach me something. You have medicine, you have wisdom within you. And I think, like, a lot of times when we have symptoms popping up or we have unwanted behaviors, it's sometimes, and we have all these shoulds, sometimes it's good just to, like, slow down. Yes. And just to, like, take whatever it is that we're struggling with, whether it's like anxiety, hormonal imbalance, and just for a moment be like, what are you here to teach me? And just sit with that curious energy and just with an openness to learn what it's here to teach us, and then allow just like body wisdom to speak. So I think the shoulds, like, get quiet is like the biggest thing. Get quiet and get curious. And just invite in whatever you're experiencing, and just be open to the wisdom that it's here to teach.
So that quiet mind, that inquiry, and then that listening. That's such great advice. You also have created some programs and some group opportunities to work with you to kind of move through these challenges. Tell us a little bit about what that looks like if we were to come to your website. And we'll include the links in your Q&A below, but at radiantrootsnutrition.com, you can find out more about Jessie's story, but also more about your offerings. Tell us what those look like.
Yeah, so the two biggest ways that I work with people right now is a 6-week hormonal reset. And it's more of like a foundational plan, like really getting down daily rituals, things that work for you as a client specifically, and creating, like, navigating through all of those many ideas about nutrition and kind of narrowing in on what works for you as an individual. And so it's kind of just like a reset, because a lot of times when our hormones are out of whack, it doesn't matter how much we want to be embodied or how much we want to be relaxed. Like there needs to be some level of action to create a relaxed state in the stress, with the stress hormones, in order to experience that, right? So working together with soul and science, and then the other way is the food freedom. So I find a lot of people, they're living their whole lives trying to get to a number on a scale, or the healing journey has kind of like taken over their lives, and there's no longer like another big why. It has become the big why, like healing to heal, right? Instead of like healing for this big why of like why we're on this planet. And so
you give me chills. Yes, exactly. I don't think I've heard it articulated quite like that, but it's really true.
Yeah, so I think it's, for me, that experience, it's longer. It's 3 months, because it's really getting through all of those beliefs around nourishment, self-care, and just the way we show up in life. Yes. And I find that a lot of people see like better health outcomes by not focusing on health and focusing on all of these other things. It's just a lot gentler and softer and much more body wisdom led.
Oh, I love that. So again, so if women are out there and they're finding their way to this and they're curious about hormone health, they're curious about their relationship to food and how it relates to their weight or their image of themselves or how they're expressing themselves in the world. Tell us again what that 3 trine was. It was their thyroid. It was potentially, tell us a little more about how that works.
Thyroid, adrenals, and the ovaries are female hormones.
Endocrine. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I know that there are so many pieces of this that will be signposts for women, that they'll hear a piece and say, oh yeah, that's me. Or yeah, I've always been told I have thyroid issues. Or I hear a lot, I feel like I have thyroid issues, but I don't necessarily show it on my labs. You know, Chinese medicine looks at thyroid completely differently than Western medicine looks at it. So any of these things in terms of stress, relationship to food, emotional challenges, mood, all of these are indicators of the challenges that Jessie's describing, and would be are speaking to you in some way to potentially go into that quiet mind, go into the deeper inquiry, open yourself up to that body wisdom. And Jessie, your programs are so well designed to help people access that balance between the doing and the being, the feminine and the masculine, and come out the other side. If there was something that anyone could do from where they are, regardless of where they live and financial resources and where they are in terms of their own awakening and personal health journey, what would be the one thing that you would recommend that would be a great first step for anyone kind of desiring to shift their relationship to their own body and to their relationship to food?
I would say movement. Because it's been so important for me in my life and in my healing journey, and I think it's absolutely like imperative to move the stress hormones through our bodies as they were meant to be metabolized, and as we were designed. And so just creating, and also it's like this really great time to come into conversation with the body, like, what do you want? What do you need? Like, what would feel really good today? Yeah. And instead of being like, oh, I've got to do this. And so kind of like opening up that conversation, like, how do I want to move my body?
Oh.
And doing that, and I love combining that with nature and music, because I think that they're all like game changers. They like create big shifts in whatever way we need. Like they can be relaxing, or they can be really get our life force flowing again.
I love that. Well, movement is my own personal Achilles heel because, like you described, I need it and I require it, and yet it's the spot that I have the most resistance around. So I'm your ideal client in that space for sure. So that is all. That's great wisdom. I'm so appreciative of you bringing your story and your expertise and your inspiration to the Shift series. I want to encourage people to go find you online, get onto Jessie's list, check out her programs. They're powerful and transformative. And if you have any other questions, message me through the website or reach out to Jessie directly, because we're definitely here to help you on your hormonal journey. And Jessie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
We touched on so much. There's about 14 other doors I want to dive through with you, so I hope we'll do some follow-ons, because we could certainly go deeper on any one of those areas and speak to some of the specific presentations that people might be experiencing. But until then, thank you for this introduction to your good work, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.